Hello and welcome to Channel's Book Club. My name is Olakunle Kasumo, and it's great to be on the show where we discuss all things books. We have to start by thanking all of you who keep sending us messages via our social media platforms. And one question that is consistently asked is, how do we get this book? So we've resolved to always put on our social media platforms leads on how you will get any book that we feature on this show. Just throw in that question and we will answer as promptly as possible to give you a lead, a direction, so that you can find the books that we feature on this show. Now, remember Hadiza Bala Usman. Remember we featured her new book recently, Stepping on Toes. Did she name that book? Did she give that book that title deliberately? Of course she did. Of course every author or publisher gives a title deliberately. But then, Stepping on Toes. Did she step on toes? Yes, she did. Former governor of Rivers State, Rotimi Amaechi, recently responded and said that book is full of lies, lies and lies. Well, she said during a book reading that she hosted to promote her book, she said that a lot of lies had gone out about her and her years of service at the NPA, and she wrote extensively refuting those alleged lies and all that. So, but I'll let you into a secret. Publishers, book reviewers, literary journalists, and the rest of us, we just love books to get controversial at times. You know, it's interesting when books get controversial and there are debates and arguments and debates over the contents of a book. It's all part of adding to the intellectual discourse and explore. The reader must have the kind of mind that explores, that investigates. Every leader must be an investigator at one level or another. Don't just take in everything you read, ask questions. Don't just take in every review, every feedback on a book. You ask your own questions, you find out, and then you reach your own conclusions. Civilizations have been built on that kind of mindset adopted by the collective. Well, Stepping on Toes. Let's take you down memory lane a little bit and listen to what Hadiza had to say when we attended that interesting book reading session.
The issue of the how I exited Nigerian ports. So I felt it was important to set the record straight, let Nigerians understand what happened. Having snippets of information in the public space in one story doesn't compile it and put it together. It's important for people to understand what transpired from my perspective. As I mentioned, I'm from a very, I'll say, large family, large extended family. My father was a professor. He had quite a lot of students that looked up to him. So there I was, being his daughter and being accused of something that I didn't do. So I felt it was important for me, for my family, for where I come from, to set the record straight so that people that know who I am, that know my pedigree, will understand that she did not do this and this is what happened. So clearing my name was more important than preserving myself. So that is a decision that I took. Some family members were opposed to it, but I stood by it and I felt it was important for me to clear my name. If anyone felt different, they should also write a book or explain their position. But for me, I have written in detail on what transpired and what I feel is important for the public space for Nigerians to know.
My very good friends and very important friends feel that you will be making my former managing director of MPA important. But the lies were too many. For instance, she claims that she was not indicted by the panel. I have left the first page of my list into the last. I'm talking about the last now, Buhari's government. Now, she says she wasn't indicted by the panel. 10 counts, she was found guilty on all the 10 counts. I even came with a copy of the memo to the president, in which the president endorsed her removal. And we took the president, count one, this is count one, this is the position of the panel. Panel says she's guilty. These are the reasons why she's guilty. Count two, including the fact that a managing director of MPA with 2.5 million naira approval limit can approve 2.8 billion naira contract. No appropriation. Including the fact that BBP found that even if I were to approve, despite the lack of appropriation, you are overpriced by 58 million naira. So tell them to refund the 58 million naira having awarded the contract. Why is that document not public? Prominent Nigerians are involved. She gave waivers to prominent Nigerians, which she has no power to give. And these are dollars agreeable to Nigerian economy. But she was bold to write a book. Or is it a pamphlet? And Nigerians were following her, launching the book. So how would Nigeria move forward?
So which side of the narrative is truth? Well, it's up to us to investigate and find out. Well, up next, a young man that I have a lot of respect for. I've always respected him for many years. Brilliant, intelligent young man, literary minded. And the thing about him is, as much as he understands and speaks English very well, he's also very vastly knowledgeable when it comes to Yoruba language, Yoruba literature. Not only does he write in English, he writes in Yoruba, and there are a few of that particular breed, a few of them left nowadays. Everybody just writes and speaks English. What has happened to our culture, to our language? Well, he's been up and around trying to make sure that our culture, our language, they are kept intact as much as we embrace Western civilization. I'm talking about no other person than Olutayo Tola. He's written a book that preserves a very important part of Nigerian history, Yoruba history, if you want to be more precise. Tayo is our guest today. Let's get to meet with him and then enjoy this conversation.
Olutayo Tola is a Yoruba language enthusiast, translator, voiceover artist, compere, creative writer, and author. Tola is an alumnus of Abadina College, University of Ibadan, University of Ilorin, FRCN Training School, now National Broadcast Academy, Pan Atlantic University, and a Pioneer Bridge Fellow of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. He is the convener of the Literary Reading Group, a charity organization dedicated to encouraging children in correctional homes to read literature and develop their creative skills. Tola is the author of 3 published books: Lives and Times of Reverend J.A. Okesiji, J.P., an anthology of poetry in English and Yoruba, and the Oko Exodus. He joins Channel's book club to discuss his book, The Oko Exodus.
Tayo, welcome to Channel's book club.
Thank you so much. It's nice to be here.
Cabo.
Ekuleo.
I know for many years you've been an advocate of culture, of our local languages, Yoruba language in particular, because that's your constituency. And I really admire the effort you have put over the years.
Thank you so much.
Ensuring, we sustain our culture. Why has that been a passion of yours?
So, I'm a Yoruba boy. I grew up in Yoruba land. And ironically, my mom happens to be a Yoruba teacher. So I grew up with the language. I grew up with the people. I had opportunity of relating with my grandparents. And there's no way in which I won't be a Yoruba boy. Then to also make you laugh, I would always refer to him. I used to have a Yoruba writer that I adore so much. I had the opportunity of relating with him while he was still alive, and that is Alagba T.R.R. Ladele. Yes. So I'd learned a lot from the worldview of the Yorubas. It had helped me survive even in the world where we speak English. So I have no choice other than being a Yoruba boy.
So are you one of those people concerned about how much Western culture and civilization seem to have, you know, suppressed, some will argue, suppressed our local culture and languages? Is that a concern? Is that a worry?
Yes, it is a worry. However, I met another person sometimes recently by the name Oladipo Yemiton. Is a Bakwiton of Owu. And he said that, number one, it's almost impossible to eradicate Yoruba language because Yoruba language is the African language that has a lot of books on it. So there's no way in which you want to do it. You will still encounter Yoruba books, whichever way you turn, globally. That's one. But as regards the concern majorly is that very soon we have the possibility of the white people coming to teach our children our language. We might not be taking it serious, but it's looking closely like that. They might have to come back to teach our children our language if we don't start a renaissance of it now. And interestingly, we could find out that it seems like the upcoming generation now are trying to look back a little more than the generation we had some 40 to 25 years ago that believes that everything must be westernized. So it's now getting halfway back. Let's hope if it's something that we could recover before it's too late for the culture, as it were.
As it were. Is all that is that connected to this book, the Oko Exodus? Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Regicide, Revolt, Relocation, a historical play. Are all those connected to you coming to write a book, and of all books, the Oko Exodus?
Okay, so the journey of Oko Exodus is that, number one, I hail from Okeho.
You are from there?
Yes.
And that's in Oyo State?
That's in Oyo State. And over 100 years ago, the colonial masters, that's specifically Captain Ross, ordered that Okeho people should leave Okeho Ahoro, which is a hilly part of the town where they were residing under the rock because of the Fulani Dahomey invasion. So after they left Okeho Ahoro, they were ordered to return back to the upper land where they were resident before the Fulani Dahomey invasion began. Now, Okeho, as it were, we are proud to say that it's a federation of different communities. So the beginning of Okeho was that the king at that time called other communities nearby, 11 other communities, that they should come together as against the Fulani Dahomey invasion. And he saw it as an opportunity that he has a hilly part of his community wherein they could take refuge in case of any invasion, and that was what they did. So after many years there, over time, when people had stayed so long in a particular place, they forget where they are from, and they start claiming we are all sons of the soil, things like that. So everybody started claiming the son of the soil, and all the bales, those are the quarter heads, they carried out a revolt somehow against the king. As of that time, that was King Olukitibi, over 100 years ago. What I'm saying now happened between 1912 and 1917. So they carried out the revolt, and after the revolt, the entire community dispersed. So it took some time for the colonialists to gather them together. After gathering them together, they fined the whole community, about £500. Then they ordered them
£500
as of that
back
time or something,
back then,
and ordered them to move to the upper land where they could easily have oversight over them. And part of all of what caused these revolts were, number one, people felt that taking of immunization is going to make them unfruitful. It would affect their reproduction. Men were being told to go and clear the road path, which was against them. When they come together as men, traditionally at that time, what they are doing is maybe they are roofing the house of a friend, they are helping him on his farm. But the white man now say, come widen the road for them to be able to drive into town. It wasn't something that they took funny. At that time, women had the opportunity of going to, to seek for divorce. They call it diokbomu. All of those things were things that were strange to them in the community. And that's what eventually led to regicide. So those are all the things that I now had to creatively put together in a play.
I like the fact that you did a biography and the biography was about your grandfather. That's on the one hand.
Okay.
On the other hand, I also know that it will bear a lot of history. One of the ways I learn history is by reading the stories of people who have, left here. You could read an actual book of history, as in history, but if you read the stories of people who have left, you also learn a lot of history because
True.
The stories are written within the contexts of the time
Yes,
in which they existed,
exactly,
and
yeah.
there's always a lot to learn from there. So that's something to look at. But back to the Okeho Exodus. I know this is in schools in Oyo State right now, or have been
Yes.
approved to be in schools.
Yes, it's already approved to be in schools.
That's a good one. What was playing in your mind when you tried to push it into schools?
Essentially, for me, what's most important is getting people to interrogate this history as well. It's not the best just having it in a book format and keeping it on the shelves of people. But I know that once it gets into the hands of students, it becomes something that they have the opportunity to critique much more. Once it goes for pedagogy, it's the best of what can happen to any text, I would say. And when people start to read it, they start to form their own opinions. Then, most especially children of the community who are all across the world will now be like, oh, so this is where I'm from. That gives a lot of joy, seeing that happen. I've seen people whose mothers are from Okeho. Their fathers are not, and they've read it, and they're like, oh, so this is how the town, your town is. So something like this happened in your community, So that's the exciting part for me, having it with the students now. They will read, they would interpret it in their own way, and that's one good thing about literature. There is always interpretation per reader of what you are saying. So it's a good thing, I must say, and I must thank the Oyo State government for giving the book an opportunity, at least, to be in the hands of students, I will say.
But there's a struggle for them purchasing it. I know you told me that offsets. But maybe that's another topic. The whole book distribution chain in Nigeria and cost of production. Let's leave that for another. You and I need to have that discussion.
No problem. That's fine.
Yeah, but
that's fine.
But now the story, the Okeho Exodus, Regicide, Revolt, Relocation, historical play. Are you planning to put this on stage in a big way?
Yes, it will go on stage. But now that it's in the hands of students, if you would ask me, I would also want students to be the ones to put it on stage. And the reason is that everything that I am around literature started from class. And I think that's one of the things that we need to do when young people come across me, when we have conversations about writings and all the rest. They get excited to see somebody that they can see as one of them. You understand? It's not like you're talking to an elderly person, but they see somebody that is one of them and that is speaking the language they will want to hear. So that makes it something very good. If students would put it together, it would be a very nice thing to see. Let them interpret it in their own way. Have fun. Pick up names. One thing about the theater, as it were, is that you always get a sticky stage name. So somebody will start bearing Unju Arile Shere from it. Just like when we acted The Gods Are Not to Blame, I happen to be King Godewale. No, King Adetusa. My friend was King Godewale. So today, when we still say ourselves as King Adetusa and King Godewale. So let the sticky stage names continue in another generation and let them have some fun.
Are you planning to write this in Yoruba?
Which is at the play.
Translate the
Okay,
play,
so
play into Yoruba.
now let me now tell you something that is interesting about it. The book is actually written in English, but spiced with a lot of
Yes,
Yoruba.
there's a lot of Yoruba, yes.
And I did not just write Yoruba, I ensure that the tonal marks are on it.
Yes, all the tonal, yes.
And it's deliberately done. It's done to ensure that there are a lot of nuances in Yoruba language that you can't get the end-to-end translation of it in English, which people don't know. Now, if you look at the trend recently, you would see people saying Egungun is not masquerade. And some will tell you that the devil is not Eshu. Now, there are some certain words that you can't just transfer from one language to the other and get it as it were. So what I did now was I had footnotes wherein those Yoruba words were translated, just to ensure that at least whoever does not understand the Yoruba words can still pick up the idea of what the English version of the footnote is saying. But essentially understand that this thing happened in the Yoruba worldview. You can't get everything in English language. I won't do that, basically. And I also ensured that some of the words written in English that were maybe proverbs or things that I tried to do to translation, somehow I still found a way of getting the words back into Yoruba language. Then I also did something, which was what I saw in Professor Femi Oshofiso's book. I think that's Ajayi Crowder. In the text, Prof placed the songs both in Yoruba and English side by side, so you can see what exactly is happening through, in both languages.
Well done. I can see that a lot in your book. Mi ò ní bàbá ọdẹ. Mi ò ní bàbá ọdẹ.
Yes.
I do not have a slack father.
Yeah, so that part I just read is talking about when they were trying to contest for the throne. You know, somebody going to one of the kingmakers to say, Baba, it's my turn to be a king. And the Baba answered him. But you know, those old men of those times, they have ways of throwing words at you that you won't feel insulted, but actually it's a direct insult, you know. So after the man answered him, he felt quite comfortable and I said, me about there. And if you look at it again, that is not totally in the Yoruba of that generation, but I still brought it down a little so that people who read it will still have something to flow with, to say, okay, this generation now, you can understand what that means.
Wow, interesting. Well, Tayo, thank you so much for joining us on Channels Book Club. The Okeho Exodus, is this easy to find out there?
Yes. Most especially now in Oyo State, we have it distributed all over different bookshops, yes, UI bookshop, the booksellers.
Okay. How about people from Okeho all over the world, in Canada, in Australia?
So we've been able to ship it around.
All over the world.
Yes, we've been able to ship it around. People in the US, for instance, the Ashiwaju of Okeho, that's Professor Shagun Barigeshin, who wrote the foreword to it, is based in Maryland, USA, and he already has a copy with him. So it's gone
everywhere.
Everywhere, yes.
Fantastic. I love the way you speak English well. You read English.
Yes, I studied English.
And you speak and write Yoruba very well.
Thank you.
Expertly, almost.
Like I told you, my mom happens to be a Yoruba teacher, so it will be a slap on her face if I cannot speak Yoruba as well. So
it's fantastic, and you're a young man. That's something that a lot of us, a lot of people even in my generation, that's something we need to get right as we raise our kids,
True.
particularly.
True.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us on Channels Book Club, and I look forward to having you again. So much to talk about apart from this.
Yeah.
Your other works and your grandfather, that biography about your grandfather. And your
Thank you.
experiences about, which you have not mentioned, I've not asked you, I've not prompted you to say your experiences in distributing this, which affects the book culture and distribution system in Nigeria and all. So many things to discuss.
Yeah, true. True. Very true.
Thanks for joining us on Channels Book Club.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed that. Time is never enough when you're discussing with writers like Tayo. We hope to get him back here soonest. He has to be back here as soon as possible. Well, please send us your feedback, questions, whatever it is. Put it on our social media platforms that are displayed on your screen. We look forward to having them. As always, my name is Olakunle Kasumo. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.